So these more complex shields have the ability to actually protect against physical, tangible threat. The basic ones that we talked about in the other video do not. The basic ones only have the ability to protect against, some kind of someone else's magic, or maybe a spirit or something. And there's several different ways to go about doing one of these complex shields, and I'm going to focus on probably two of them more than anything else. I will say that these complex shields, they go off of tiers. In terms of difficulty, the more physical it protects against, the more difficult it will be. So for example, say the most difficult to master. Now, in ancient paganism, we do believe that this is possible. Modern paganism does not. But in ancient paganism, we do believe it's possible, just very, very rare, that someone could actually achieve something like this. But the highest tier would be something like, it has the ability to either divert or take a step further and even erode, something like a speeding bullet. I mean, that's just exceptionally rare. You either have to be able to do that, you either have to be working with a protector that has immense shielding capability, or you yourself have to have that shielding gift, that gift of shielding in your blood already, something that you're just innately born with, because that takes so much. And then on top of that, you'd have to be mind, body, soul, very strong and very balanced, or it just wouldn't happen at all. All your chakras, everything, it asks so much of you. It's right up there with really any other very physical, tangible magic like that. Any kind of magic that you can physically witness, that stuff gets really, it gets really difficult to master. Physical shape-shifting, physically, bending the way a fire is growing, like somehow manipulating the way it moves or something, whatever it is. That highest tier is really, really rare. But that doesn't mean you can't create a complex shield. The complex shield that I'm going to focus on, both of them that I'm going to focus on today, actually have war magic built in with it. We'll talk a little more about war magic in other videos, but for the purpose of this video, the only war magic that I'm going to talk about in this video is what has to do with the shield. So basically, shields can be made up of all different kinds of elements and energy and all that stuff, right? So you're putting the barricade, the blockade, the wall, that impenetrable, that barricade, you're combining that with war magic to get this shield. And that is the case for both that I'm going to talk about today. The first of the two being a warding shield. And basically what I mean by warding, different people have different terminology for this, but what I mean by warding is that, traditionally speaking, it is a physical line, and it's a perimeter. This line, it's just not just a straight line. It connects. It goes and connects, so that it is a full perimeter around whoever, whatever, and if anything of ill intent is to cross that, anything of threat is to cross that, it will receive some sort of consequence. What that consequence is depends on what you intend it to be. Get into that in a second, but first off, you have to set it up as, because magic does exactly what you intend it to, you have to set it up as, this is only for the threat, and anything innocent can pass through and not get harmed. It's literally as simple as your intent being there, and that's all that you have to do. And as long as you intend that nothing innocent will get harmed, then something innocent can just pass right through and it won't affect it at all. But if something of ill intent comes along, they get close and they're already like, even if it's someone who doesn't have any magic within them, even someone just a regular person, will get this sense like something really bad is about to happen and I don't know why. And that is the warning. It is such an immense feeling that you get when there's a warding, that even a regular person should be able to feel that, because it is quite physical. And so once they actually get on that line, not past it, but on it, they start to feel the wrath of whatever the consequence was. And then once they actually trek through it, that wrath gets worse and worse and worse the longer they stay. The most complex and highest tier of warding, when someone crosses it, they're immediately dead. Okay, that's very rare that you can do something like that. But going back to what the consequence is, it can be any kind of consequence. Depending on your intent, it can be as simple as just general bad luck. It can be specific bad luck. It can be some sort of illusion or some sort of influence that is meant to confuse. It can be actual physical pain. It can be, in the most I guess wrathful of cases, it can be an actual deadly hex of some kind. And you have two options. You have two options as to how you set it up. When they leave, does it immediately go away? Does the wrath immediately go away because they left? Or does the wrath follow them home? One reason why you might want the wrath to follow them home is if they are just pure evil and you know that they are going to try to do something to someone else that probably doesn't have protection, someone innocent, and you're afraid that they're going to prey on somebody else. These kinds of warding, it's not just regular warding, it's protection. It's meant for physical harm. So whatever's crossing into that, they're out there to actually either hurt you or kill you. And if you think that they're going to do it to someone else, I personally couldn't just stand back and say, oh, well, not my problem. I personally can't live with that. So what I would do is I'd have the consequence follow them home, so that they not only couldn't do it to me, but couldn't do it to anyone ever again, whatever they were trying to do. If you don't know from the other videos, I suffered through a lot of things I shouldn't even have survived. I should be dead, in terms of all the different things that I went through with child abuse. I have absolutely no patience. When it comes to evil people wanting to hurt innocent people, I have no patience. And so what I always do, it always follows them home, always. And they don't get a second chance for anything, because it is always going to follow them home. Like I said, whatever the consequence is, it is up to you. You can decide the level of wrath that you give them. You can decide whether it's just bad luck or actual pain or death. You know, but be mindful that unless you're exceptionally strong with whatever you're doing with the war magic, that it's probably going to take a while to take full effect. You know, it's going to take, like I said, the longer they stay, the worse it gets. So if it follows them home, it's basically that progression doesn't stop. If it follows them home, that progression doesn't stop, but it still is a progression, right? So that's a lot easier than, like I said, the highest of tier, someone crossing it and immediately dying. A different kind of shield is a little more complex than what we just talked about with the warding. Doesn't have necessarily any physical barricade or anything, but it is more difficult. It is what I call a ricochet shield. And this is actually probably one of my favourite shields, to be honest. Because you're using all the wrath that they intend for you, you're using that and you're turning what should be your own demise into the perfect weapon through this ricochet shield. I'll explain. So it goes verbatim, literal verbatim. Whatever they intend for you, it bounces off that shield, and it is now, instead of going to you, it's gone to them. Let me give an example. So, say somebody is trying to inject you with some kind of poison or something. And again, the highest tier, you might actually be able to prevent any of the liquid from going in. But we're assuming that you're not exceptional and that you're just like most of the rest of us. You can at least prevent the poison from going in, but the actual liquid might still go in you. So what happens with the magic is that before the needle ever pierces your skin, that poison has already been sucked out and transmitted into the body and the veins of whoever was trying to hurt you. Assuming that whatever they stuck you with would have killed you, then they're probably going to be dead either tomorrow or in a few days. Because it is literally taking 100% of a strong ricochet shield will take 100% of that wrath that was meant for you, and it'll go back to them. Having a ricochet shield is a lot easier than having to, you already have that poison within you. Now you have to do a cleansing before you can even do the war magic to get it back to them. It's much easier just to set up a ricochet shield so that you don't have to do the cleansing, the very difficult cleansing work. You don't have to worry about extracting any kind of damage from your body because you're preventing the damage from happening in the first place. And at the same time, they still get the wrath. They still get 100% of whatever they intended for you happens to them. That is, in my opinion, what they deserve. If someone is out there trying to stab people, and again, this is just an example, but if someone's out there trying to stab people with poison and kill them, then they deserve to be stabbed with it themselves, honestly. I have absolutely no patience for stuff like that. Unfortunately, if it's something a lot more physical and a lot more detrimental, like a knife or a bullet, then that takes a lot more effort. Because that's a lot more. I mean, yes, poison is very physical, but if someone is going to be able to stab you with something and create an actual hole in some kind of organ or something, that takes a lot more to do a ricochet shield. For something like that, it almost would be better to do war magic, because there's easier war magic, a lot easier war magic that you can do that will get more accomplished quicker when it's something like that. And again, we'll talk about that in other videos where I talk more about war magic, but the gist of this ricochet is that verbatim, it's very satisfying, because verbatim, whatever they planned for you, now they get to experience. And you feel fine, and they're, doubled over in pain. And you didn't do anything except for use their own wrath against them. They created it for you, and you just, bounced it off and used it against them. You didn't have to curse them. You didn't have to hex them. All you did was use their own wrath against them.